set boundaries on our time so that other people don't take it away from us. I am welcome. Welcome, Joanna. So time management always sounded very nice, that it's just about the semantics. It's just, the value behind it is super clear. Whatever you're doing in your life, whatever walk of life you are in, the way you spend your time is the way you spend your life. Time is one of our 3 core resources. We talk about in Mindful Self-Discipline of the triple commitment, that we have 3 resources in our life: our time, our money, and our energy. And what we're spending these resources on is going to determine the quality of our life. It's going to determine how we live in the present and what becomes possible for us in the future. So the way you spend your time is the way you spend your life. It's that compound effect of the moment after moment. How many moments are you spending living in alignment with your values? How many moments are you spending in the pursuit of that which is meaningful for you? How many moments are you spent in well-being versus in stress and negative emotion? The quality of our life and who we are is the sum total of all these moments. So learning how to manage our time, learning how to make sure that we are spending our time in the wisest possible way, in the most positive and aligned, authentic way, that is extremely important. And so this is the topic of today. Half of it will be this week. The second half is on how do you manage your time for self-discipline. But it's only between you. It is self-discipline. It comes from, it is on that your priorities and willpower. I call that the military to self, then willpower. The order matters. The way we approach the topic of self-discipline may make it achievable for us. Teamwork is life that you will love more. To be a virgin is at the service of self-love. It's at the service of your goals and aspirations, of the vision you have for yourself. Now, aspiration is deep. I also have a blog that is giving you a overview, which is all those, and one of them is time management, 2 classes, meditation, spring into the topic today. I would love to. One is like, nothing happens. I feel I'm wasting a lot of time. How to not procrastinate and stay on task. And my life is pretty much organized. So that would be a 10. 5, 2, 5. Yes, 5. I put too much on my plate and I want to get too much done. Yes. So give you the tools you need to take a 7. Now, ideally you want to be thinking this framework multiple times until you are at a point that you can get there. One thing at a time. So we're going to cover a lot of content today. Please don't overwhelm yourself. If you are deep into the personal development world, many of these things will be familiar, and then we're just thought about it much, then it can feel a little bit overwhelming because I am sharing everything all at once. So just keep that in mind and aim to have 1 or 2 things from today. The more things pile up, the more I procrastinate. From 1 to 5, lately 1 to 3. Okay, it worked so much today. All right, so today we're not going to have time to go through the typical summaries of the pillars. We're going to go directly into the content. If you have any questions, you can type them in the comments. From time to time, when I pause, I will have a look and address as many as possible. So, first, why time and your energy. Operations will not become real. Management is a set of skills taking care of the different areas of life. Operations. Time management is an essential life with your values. The art of living is the idea of making good use of your time, means that you plan this so that it's not only a plan, it's not only a wish, but you're actually giving yourself the best chance to follow your plan. And you protect your time against time wasters, against other people wasting your time, against you about your time. Okay. Mindful time management has 4 principles. They are an unfoldment of the idea of prioritizing your time, which comes from the aspiration pillar. You cannot your aspiration time boundaries, knowing how to set boundaries. And this is what we're going to how to be aware of your time in a way that you are on track with your plans, and how to focus your time. So this will be next week. Now, the first thing, even before time management, we need to talk about, said, it's not enough to be busy. Everyone can say things that are contributing to your vision a year from now, sometimes even a week from now. So just one area of our life. The more complex our lives are, the more we need to understand and apply time management principles. And we all play different roles. If all I do is to read and write books, I don't need much time management. I probably don't business. And this is one of the aspects of my life. I'm not only an author and coach, I'm also a father, a husband, a spiritual practitioner. So there are different tasks and roles and activities in the other areas of my life. And it's the same thing, I believe, for everyone here. Care of. That we are taking care of our health, our finances. Is this making sense? We need to clarify our priorities. We need to know which of these areas of life we need to put more, or another time of your life you really need to take care. It's normal that in different phases of life, some of these areas will get priority over the other ones, and we need to be clear about what it is. And so I'm curious to know from you, what is the area of your life that is most important right now? Let's say until the end of this year, you're going to neglect the other areas. That's not what mindful self-discipline is about. You need to still keep the other areas going with some minimal habits, with some minimal effort. But what is the one area that is a priority for you right now? Health. Okay. Organizing myself, healing. Physical and financial health. Yes. Thank you for sharing. So the more we simplify in your life, and a project is any goal that requires multiple steps. Meditating 20 minutes in the morning is not a project. Writing 20 minutes in the morning is not a project. Writing a book is a project. Many different steps, different phases and milestones. Renovating your kitchen, 2 projects going on in your life, the amount of time management you need is X. But if you have 5, 10 projects, you will need 3X. You need much more. So as much as possible, we make things easier for us by simplifying in fewer activities, by trying to maintain fewer things in our life. That instead of keeping up with 20 friends on a regular basis, if you keep up with 5, you're going to have deeper relationships and fewer distractions. And there's going to be fewer influences also coming into your life, so you will feel kind of more clear and stable. And if instead of going to 4 different classes and courses, you just go to 1 and focus on really doing that one well, you're going to develop that skill much sooner, and then you can go to the second one rather than trying to juggle everything at once. So clarifying your priorities and prioritizing, simplifying your life, means knowing what to say no to and what to prioritize. That you are focusing on the things, on the great things. That everything in your life is competing for your time, your energy, your attention. And so if you want to feel more time, then you need to remove limited product that will help people focus better at work and do some other things. So it's very connected to my space and to the work that I do. And then I would be creating courses for their app, consultant to their company. I have to juggle. It's another project that is occupying space in my mind that I'm going to have to make decisions about, think about, contemplate. It's another source of questions and thoughts that will come up during the day, maybe even during meditation. And that there's not that time, that energy into understanding what I teach more deeply and fine-tuning and writing books more quickly. That would be more aligned for me. And so I said no. Was it an easy decision? No. It's always saying no to things that are good so that we can prioritize the things that are great are usually not easy, because there's always this opportunity. And I can make some time for it. It's okay. But then the reality is, like, by saying yes to that, I move more slowly or go less deep because I'm bringing another thing to juggle. Removing tasks, activities, decision points, frictions, relationships that don't add much value, so that we can be more authentic and more focused on what matters most. And I'm happy with this decision. Even if they succeed tremendously, good for them. I'm still happy with this decision. If you have 10 different things you're juggling in quickly, maybe more than twice as quickly, because momentum is not that linear. So it's not like something that you tick one off. It's more of an ongoing reflection, a way of thinking. Imagine if you would diminish in half the activities, commitments, goals, projects, etc. in your life for 1 month. Imagine what would be possible for you. And then after that, you can add back the things that are actually missing. This is often easier to start from the bare bones and then add back than to choose one by one what to remove. Right? If you want to declutter 40 dresses, rather than looking at one by one and saying like, do I want to keep this or do I want to give away, donate, sell, whatever? That's difficult. If you say I can in each category and everything else you leave aside for a month, and then see if you miss any of them. And if you do, then you can bring the ones you missed, and then the rest you donate, give, sell. That is much easier. So that's what I had to share about clarifying your priorities and simplifying your life. Now, let me have a look at the questions. Okay, thank you. Thank you for sharing, Sarah. I think there's no specific question here, but it's always good when we share how we are living these concepts and where we are in our life with the community. It will be helpful to hear you talk about understanding our limits to how much we can take on, what signs, feelings we experience, how can we know we can add something short-term versus what is sustainable for us, TJ asks. Default for most of us, especially if you're more of a type A personality, that is going to be your default. And it often takes some time, some self-reflection to understand. So knowing what are the key projects in your life at this point, making all time and energy possible for them. We all know when we are getting overwhelmed. We all know when we are consuming more information and receiving more input than we are actually processing in our life. And that, for me, is a sure sign that we need to slow down. Just an example of needed when it's in a time of emergency, then suddenly the what's important becomes clear. How do you focus as you get older? I've got more laissez-faire. It's a good question. We're going to address focus more next week. But what I can say for now, it's about being more purposeful and having a sense of direction, having an aspiration, something that you deeply care about, something that fires you up. And sometimes that's obvious, and you have just been suffocating that thing because of busyness or self-doubt or fears. But sometimes we need to do some deep reflection over time until we uncover what that thing is. Once we have found a deeper sense of purpose, a goal that moves us, then there's energy that comes from that, regardless of the phase of our life. You may not be 18 again, but you can have that zest for life and that focus and that fire. How to stay in the decision of what is a priority. We need to come back to that thought and that insight that this is the priority for me every day. How would I answer this question? Personal experience. Struggled for a while, especially in the work aspect of my life. And the story that I shared of saying no to unexciting work life, for example. And the idea that there are many different marketing channels out there. There are many different ways of getting my work out there, getting this message heard. And in the past, I would try a little bit of each and see which one is going to flow. Now I say, like, for marketing, I'm going to run these classes every week. I'm going to publish one video a day on YouTube. After a year, I will look back and see if it's working or not. And even the marketing guy that is working for me, like, we're publishing these videos and they're really good. The content is really good, but it's only getting 200 views. Maybe we need to shift the strategy. Maybe something's not working. No, I'm not opening new boxes. I'm not that I have said no to any other decisions, to any other brainstorming, to any other doubts for a certain period of time. And that, as you know, is related to the not now technique that we covered when we were talking about doubts. Hopefully that answers your question. Plan your time. Planning your time. There are different ways of planning our time. The essential ones that I talk about, and I'm going to go into kind of mandatory if you want to feel on top of things. And then the yearly plan. And the yearly plan is more about the big picture project. You're not getting overwhelmed, that you're taking care of. And both the day plan and the weekly plan, we start by remembering our aspirations. If you have written them down, 1, 2, or 3 aspirations, you start by reading them. Is informed by that remembrance, by that mindfulness of what is important. So that answers one of the questions that we got before. And here are 3 reflections. I'm going to share 3 reflections, part of chapter, because that is what I call the COPE framework, and that was developed after the book, so I'm going to cover at the end, but it's still based on these principles that we're discussing today. And let me see if it's in the resources page. So there is a summary of everything that I'm talking about today in the resources page, where you can download the summaries for your phone. All of this free, and you can also check out the blog with the articles that I publish every week. So that's all in the resources page. How do you find the resources page? If you're watching me on YouTube, I am going to place the link here. If you're watching me on Insight Timer, then you can search for my name. That would take you, Giovanni, that would take you to the teacher's profile page, and the link is in the bio. That I keep my priorities today. And what can I do to make my day run smoother? What can I do? Implementing all of them at once? Just come out with 1 or 2 things that you will implement. And when do we do the time planning? If we are talking about the weekly planning, I suggest doing that Sunday or Monday morning. If it's the daily planning, at the end of your morning routine would be the best time before you start your day. Or some people like to do it the night before. So you see what works best for you. I have clients that do it both ways. I do it at the end of my morning routine. But I've come to a point where my weekly plan is so robust and my life is simple enough that, moving some things around, and that's it. So the first reflection is deciding the what. What are my priorities today? And there are 3 ways to think about this. The first one is, what will I do to advance each of my aspirations today? What activities will I do? At least one activity, one thing, one step forward in relation to each of my aspirations today. And if you have a solid morning routine, maybe this is already built in. That if your aspirations are related to your health, your career, and your spirituality, and you have a morning routine that addresses, or spiritual study or whatever it is, then you already have a minimum amount of time and energy that you are putting on these 3 aspirations every day because it's part of your morning routine. But maybe there are some things that you need to do throughout the day. Or maybe there's more that you want to advance my aspirations. Then you think about the important tasks. What are the 3 most important things I want to do today? It could be doing the groceries. Your fridge has been almost empty for a while. It could be making a phone call to a certain place, finishing your taxes. 3 most important things. They are the things that at the end of the day, if I have ticked them and only them, it's still good. But if I haven't done them, I will feel not so happy. Then the third one is, are there any stressful tasks? Is there any task that if I complete, it will improve my well-being? And maybe it's not the most important thing. Maybe it's not the most urgent thing. But it's the type of thing that will improve my well-being if I complete it. Can I make time to do one of the procrastinating on that you have been avoiding so that you don't need to think about it anymore? It could be fixing a window that is no longer working. It could be anything. That if you do that thing, it could be an extra meditation session. And if I do this, a stressful task will be done and out of my way, or I will feel better in general. There will be less friction in my life. So if you take nothing else from the day plan, from the time planning, but this, that every day in the morning, you make a list of how you're going to do the aspiration related stuff. What are you going to include? What are the 3 most important tasks? And is there anything that I can do today to remove stress in my life, to increase my well-being? If all you do is these 3 things, that's great. That is a great beginning. And once that is a habit, then you can start implementing the rest. Now, the second reflection is, how will I keep my priorities today? So it's not enough to decide what I'm going to do, what is important for me to do. We need to follow that plan. You need to be aware of what could go wrong. You need to have some things in place to make sure that that plan is going to happen. One of these things is choosing what to skip. You could ask yourself, what do I need to skip today so that I can focus on what matters, so that I can get these things done? Which things? These things. So what do I need to skip, postpone, delegate, or just say no to so I can focus on my aspirations? Using the example of that no that I said to that business opportunity, 3 months from now, when there's another meeting about that, or when I need to sit down and think about that, will I feel happy? Or will I feel like, I wish I could instead spend that time reading another book on willpower and awareness, or writing another article, or creating or putting more thought into my next video? I would probably feel that way. Yeah. So these are thought processes that help us make the decisions we're going to be happy with. Then ask yourself, what are the challenges that may come up in me trying to implement this system? What distractions may happen? What interruptions may happen? And how will I deal with them? So if finishing your task, separate the time from 6 to and make me unable to finish that task. The task that was supposed to take 40 minutes takes an hour and a half. What happens if you arrive late at work? Or if you feel tired and demotivated when it's time to work on that particular important thing? What happens if someone else asks you for up or doesn't do their part? What happens if you are getting constantly distracted with your phone? So just knowing to implement. And then what will I do to address them? And this is related to the concept of the contingency plan that we covered, I think, chapter 30. Or to address it when it comes. So in these cases, it could be that you will have a conversation with some people so that they know you're not going to be available at that time. It could be that you might need to put your phone in airplane mode until you finish. Optimistically thought would be needed. It might be that you need to put the most important things early in the day so you make sure they are done. It might mean that you're going to have to say no to certain people. And we're going to talk about that in a moment. And the third reflection is, not reflection, but the third way we can decide this or time buckets, time slots, to say, from this time to this time, I'm going to separate. And so some people recommend that you run your whole day like this, that you run your whole day from your calendar, that every kind of a minute in your calendar, in your day, is addressed for a time block. Now, for me, that is an overkill. For me, that brings too much. You struggle a lot. When I work with people, I'm not going to do anything else. There's no other task that I'm worried about. I have no to-do list other than the things that I'm going to do at this time. But one thing that I recommend in life, that, if you have a budget and that hour is only for that, helps you keep organized and making sure that everything is taken care of. That for some people, if they don't have a block of time where they take care of household, they are going to spend too much time on it. And throughout the day, it becomes a distraction. For other people, if they don't have time, if they don't have a block of time for household, they are going to spend no time on it. So you can see that this can work both ways. To smoothen my day. To make my day or my life go smoother. And this is something that it's not mandatory to think about every day. It's not like an essential part of the day planning, but it's something that you would include from time to time. So this first one is actually a good idea to include regularly, which is to resolve clashes. To have a look at your calendar, at your to-do list, and see if you're expecting too much of yourself. That you have that illusion things at the same time or in two places at the next thing. Are you scheduling? You may need to simplify things, or maybe you're going to have to say no to certain things. Now the second one is big, and it's something that almost everyone can improve, especially people who are very the concept of scheduling breaks is the idea of having downtime in your life. Downtime is a time where you are not receiving any new information, where you're not processing information. So if you have downtime between two things, but you're spending your brain busy, you're still going through CPU cycles. Well, the brain is always active, but so your digestive system never rests, and that's not good. It's the same thing with our brain. If we are constantly doing something and processing information, then there is no downtime. And what's the problem in having no downtime? Well, the first obvious problem is that you feel more tired, that you feel more stressed, that you feel more overwhelmed. And everyone can notice that. It doesn't require a refined awareness or much self-reflection to notice that. The other effect is that this will lead you to burnout over time. And when that happens, your motivation is gone for a while, and you have to work hard to bring it back up, to believe in yourself again. You are suffering. And the third aspect, and this is something that most people don't realize, destroying your ups. You are not giving any time. Instead of listening to a podcast and consuming new information, you're actually doing nothing, or you're just thinking and reflecting about your life. Then you are encoding, trying to connect the dots, for you to make sense out of things, for insights to arise, for creativity to unfold, an activity or with, which means that the vast majority of the information you're consuming is not going to be encoded. You may have information, but you won't have knowledge. You may have knowledge, but you won't end to emerge. Some of the reflecting on your experience. Our experience have to go through the particular lesson. You haven't figured out something that. So that is how important it is for us to have downtime. How can you spend the downtime? You're not doing a task, you're not making decisions, you're not processing information. You can be going for a walk. You can be looking out at the window, staring at the wall. It doesn't matter. Having some music in the background. That's okay. Just being. It's okay to just be. If you have 30 seconds waiting for the elevator, you don't need to pull your phone out of your pocket. You don't need to scroll through any app and answer your notifications. You can development videos out there and reading the best books. If you finish one book and you go to the next, how much of that first book are you actually implementing in your life? That's why I say at the end of Mindful Self-Discipline that it's better to read one good self-help book 100 times than read 100 books once. Because if you read one book 100 times, you will really understand. You will have filled your mind with ideas, many of which will be. That's the same question that I got when I ran this yesterday for the US time zone. Meditation and self-reflection are different things. If you have no space for self-reflection in your life and you go and sit and meditate, that's when your brain is going to say, cool, now all that information, and it will be busy. Your brain is using that time for. It helps the other. The more your brain doesn't have a list of 15 things that you haven't thought about yet, and it's going to make use of this time for that. And at the same time, doing a regular meditation practice makes you better at self-reflection because it helps you slow down. It trains your awareness. This course is on Insight Timer. I know I need to give more time. Some years ago, I used to be like this. I was listening to one insightful podcast after another. I finish a book, go and read the next. I was exploring some new topics. Instead of consuming new things, reflecting and implementing the other 70%, that would have been much better. So when I realized that over time, a big part of my way of being, my life, my way of thinking and doing. And what are the tasks that come consuming more content? It's about. So I will address more questions in a moment. Let me make sure I finish this. Well, actually, this one is either schedule downtime in your time. If you think a task is going to take 40 minutes, schedule an hour. And then you have some downtime built in. You have some breaks built in. And again, when some natural downtime happens between this purpose, and then you can bring up those questions and think about it. One of my coaching clients is thinking deeply about his aspirations, and I gave him some. He said whenever about personal development, I said, well, instead of that, what if you don't watch anything at that time? What if you don't listen to anything at that time? And you're just chewing on that question, no pun intended. Like you're having that question in the background of your mind, that reflection, that will take you sooner to the insight. Again, is related to the concept of living inside out rather than. And this happened even more after my sabbatical, where I had turned off everything else. Before, I had the habit of making use of every free minute by consuming insightful information through podcasts, audiobooks, videos, etc. Now it's much less so for me. I feel more comfortable, and I feel better at sometimes just not consuming anything and just allowing things to unfold. And again, the time that I have for weekly plan once a week is also a time where I reflect back on my week for missing lessons, for, and so there is also that time. A little bit in the day plan as well, and throughout the day. Now I have this idea: never walk without a question, never clean without a mantra. And what I mean, or when I'm just doing household, what a question, but I can have a mantra going on in my mind. And so this helps a lot in ways that I cannot yet fully. There is to remove friction. So from time to time, you go and work on things that will remove friction from your life. You are giving yourself the permission to spend time streamlining your processes. And there are countless things you can do for this. If you spend an afternoon, something that if you find that better tool, you're going to have to, then that's worth it. It's removing frictions in a way that it's all automatic, etc. Finding a connected to your goals and aspirations will make that at least more pleasant. A new nanny things, I can flow more easily. Be it the flow of meditation and spiritual practice, or the flow of creative work, or the flow of study. I love to be in a state of flow. And if there are little things I can do and it's interrupted less often, then it's worth it. So, what are my priorities related to my aspirations, most important tasks, and stressful things that I can solve? Decide how I'm going to keep my aspirations, my priorities, choosing what I need to skip, postpone, say no to, anticipate challenges and how I'm going to address them, and use the concept of time buckets to organize myself better. And then resolve clashes of schedule. So how to smoothen my day, resolve clashes of schedule, making sure that I'm not overwhelming myself and scheduling stress into my day. And then making sure that I have breaks, that I have downtime, and I resist the temptation of filling that downtime with information, news, entertainment, etc. And then from time to time, seeing what I can do, not every day, but what is one thing I can do this week to permanently remove friction from my life, from something that I do every day. So that is the summary of time planning, which is the longest principle to cover of these four. Now, before we go, we're going to cover time boundaries. Say no to set boundaries. First, let me see if there are any questions on YouTube or on Insight Timer. Healthy questions so I don't ruminate about unhealthy things. Now, I partially agree with that. I agree with the idea that if our mind and energy is not focused on positive things, then negative things can come in. So yes, that's true. Your body produces more digestive enzymes, digestive issues. So there you go. Wisdom reason, tiredness and burnout reason, but there's also a physical health reason for you to switch the YouTube, sharing that, Wendy. Nowadays, that you need to really think about, or triggers emotions, and one after another like this. It's very different from that deeper, longer involvement with the book, for example. Having a question and a man may not be, and when I say clean, it doesn't need to be clean, it could be cleaning home. Now, let's cover the second principle before we go, meaning no. Now, that is more like not the most of your father, your mother, your siblings, your society, your colleagues, then you're living someone else's life. And mindful self-discipline is all because and then how much happiness can you bring for those around you? And you will develop skills in your family. So fulfilling your aspirations is your first and foremost duty as a human being. A caterpillar must become a butterfly. That's its main job. There doesn't need to be anything else in its to-do list. Of course, our life is more complex than that, but you get the picture. A caterpillar must become a butterfly. That's the main thing. The seed of an oak tree needs to become an oak tree, to look away, to get distracted with things that are not as important, but that give us instant gratification. And that is the trap. That's why we need a system, a book, a reminder, a practice to reconnect with what's most important, and to do so regularly. When you're saying yes to other people's requests for your time, when they are not aligned with your values and aspirations, you are saying no to your aspirations. Not permanently no, but you're saying no for that time. That you'd rather stay home and practice the guitar or learn Spanish. Instead, you're saying yes to a request that it's not really meaningful for you just because you are uncomfortable upsetting other people. To me, and I'm happy with this decision. That's why I come back again and again. But we need to understand that every decision is a yes to one thing and a no meaning. You are saying no to other things that could give you more joy or more meaning at that time. To not say no, to not upset other people. And they will be asking us things, knowing that we'll be uncomfortable. If that doesn't fire you up to make a change, you need to be, and that's not worth the cost. And by the way, these classes are made possible by donations. So if this class is helping you in any way, it's insightful, inspiring, if it's supporting you. And there are other ways you can support my work, such as getting copies of the book for friends and family. Saying no to other people offloading their responsibilities onto you. Saying no to silly meetings and needless tasks. Saying no to answering a phone call during your exercise or checking your emails during a family dinner. Things that come at the wrong. It's important to say no because if you cannot say no, you cannot be disciplined from that most important thing in your life. And then you can make the best use of your time and energy to live your best life, to be the best person you can be, and to give back to those around you in that way, through your strengths, through your aspirations, or the donation. Joy. I read your book and refer to it every now and then. Great. Hard to manage your time. It's very hard to focus on the thing, and it will attract people in your life that want to act in the same way. It's not selfish. By no means am I a mother and a wife and an employee, and the other things are different roles. Your vision for your life. And we live in a society that is obsessed with people pleasing, with fitting in. Most people are like that. You're giving a gift through your actions that it's okay yourself. You're helping normalize it. Now the question may come, how do you say no? It's important that you have certain templates, certain sentences that you can make use of in the moment, so that when you are caught by surprise by or make the other person uncomfortable, then you need to have a template, something that you can pull up without much thought and just drop that sentence. Suggest some ideas. I think it's also there in the summary in the resources page. But it could be saying something like, oh, they're focused on X, Y, and Z, and that's taken. So I'm gonna have to, or just saying like after because X, Y, and Z, because then some people will go and give you reasons like, oh no, but what about this and what about that? And no, if you don't want to, make it clear. And most people will understand. And why should we? Don't want to hurt them. We don't want the cousin of my brother, etc. And you don't want to, then don't say, not now, maybe later, because for you it's never really enjoy a baseball game. So there are different ways, different templates that you can create or make use of so that you feel more at ease in the moment for saying no. How do you say no to a boss that keeps you? I can't. Silence. Person asks, and they would change the topic because you won without doing. Some people will ask, or unreason comes to you, how much do you earn, and you don't want to share. Just stay quiet for 5 seconds. The person will change the topic. So the silence itself can be a template. Or in a situation like this, you ask like, that's an interesting question. Why do you want to know? Or and yes, if you that they cannot ask. It's hard to either saying, and it begins to prioritize something. How and